So the judge overseeing Donald Trump's election interference case in the state of Georgia did dismiss 6 of the charges today. Scott McAfee's that judge. He ruled those 6 charges for soliciting public officers to violate their oaths of office, lacked specific detail in the indictment. Now, the remaining 35 charges against Trump and his co-defendants are still in place. So let's bring in National Security Attorney Bradley Moss today, as well as Misty Marris, the trial attorney legal analyst on this. Welcome both. Misty, just give us some perspective first before we talk about this further on what we heard today from Judge McAfee.
Yeah, absolutely. So these 6 counts were dismissed, 3 relating to Donald Trump, and the judge said that they lacked specificity. Georgia has very specific rules relating to ambiguity. If there's ambiguity in a charge, it can be dismissed. So basically what the prosecution charged was that Trump and others asked Georgia officials to violate the state constitution, but that they failed to specify what clause of the Constitution in these charges was actually violated. That could be hundreds of legal theories that would be prejudicial for the defense. Thus, these charges are now dismissed, but there's the ability to resurrect them if the prosecution so chooses.
And the other ones are still there. Let me put a quote up from the judge just to put a little bit more of this so we know exactly what we're talking about. Some of it, by the way, is that infamous call a few years ago with Mr. Trump and Raffensperger. We can play that as well in a second. But here's the quote from McAfee. These 6 counts contain all the essential elements of the crimes, but they fail to allege sufficient detail regarding the nature of their commission. They do not give the defendants enough information to prepare their defenses intelligently, as the defendants could have violated the Constitution, thus the statute, in dozens, if not hundreds of distinct ways. I say part of this does seem to be related to the Raffensperger call. I think we remember that, right? The perfect, not so perfect call, whatever Mr. Trump used to call it. Here's a flashback. Let's listen to it.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense, and you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. You should want to have an accurate election, and you're a Republican.
We believe that we do have an accurate election.
Your thought, Bradley, on some of this, as Misty says, not all of it by any means, but some of this now being thrown out?
Yeah, this was sort of the peripheral underlying pieces, some of these charges. But as the ruling noted, and as Misty noted, the RICO charge is still in place. And these overt acts, such as that really despicable phone call, are still in play with respect to that larger RICO charge. So, it's going to be a question now for Fani Willis. Does she refile with a superseding indictment with better specificity, possibly delaying things further? Does she seek immediate review? Or does she just go on a narrower presentation to try to get this thing moving, assuming she does not get disqualified, which is what we're all waiting for to hear.
That's the other one, right? That's the other one. You take that one first, Bradley. That's the big question, as I said before the last break. Is Fani Willis thrown off? It's the same judge, McAfee, that makes the decision. You take that first.
Yeah, I still don't see any reason to believe she'll actually get disqualified here. I think, if anything, Judge McAfee is going very deliberately through this. He let all the evidence come in. It was a very extensive amount of evidentiary hearings. But what you ultimately had was a yenta, where you had this guy, Terrence Bradley, who ran his mouth, talked up all kinds of, salacious gossip he had heard or he thought he knew, but which he didn't actually have any corroboration for. And in the end, there had to be more than just the gossip. There had to be proof. And Nathan Wade testified, Fani Willis testified, and there wasn't really anything to directly undercut that testimony. That's why I believe in the end she will not be disqualified. This will move forward. Will happen before the election. Hey, you know what? I gave up guessing at this point.
Yeah, I think we all have to, at least on some of this. What do you think, Misty?
Well, look, I think the fact that the judge actually determined this motion regarding these charges before making that determination is telling, because if Fani Willis is disqualified and that office is disqualified, this would go to a new prosecutor. And therefore, everything would be subject to new review from that office and from that new prosecutor. So perhaps this is foreshadowing that she will remain on the case.
Interesting. So we're supposed to find out, I think, by the end of the week, we think, right? So it's Wednesday, so maybe we'll get it today, tomorrow, or Friday. I figured that out. Let me shift to another subject just for a moment. We talked a lot about this yesterday, but probably, particularly given your expertise over the years, I want to get your thoughts on the classified documents cases. Not only the Robert Hur testimony yesterday, but there's a hearing on the Trump classified docs case that's set for tomorrow. Let's listen to a little bit of the back and forth between Congressman Jerry Nadler and Jim Jordan concerning the Robert Hur testimony from yesterday. Let's listen.
Mr. Hur produced a 345-page report, but in the end, it boils down to a few key facts. Joe Biden kept classified information. Joe Biden failed to properly secure classified information. And Joe Biden shared classified information with people he wasn't supposed to. Joe Biden broke the law.
The Hur report represents the complete and total exoneration of President Biden. And how does that record contrast with President Trump, the documents he retained, and the criminal charges pending against him in Florida?
That's the part I want you to take up, Bradley, for a moment. The differences in the two ahead of the Trump hearing tomorrow.
Yeah, if there's any reason to suspect of why everybody hates Congress, it's those two sets of speeches right there, because ultimately none of them said anything of real substance. Look, that was a great opportunity to get into the nuances of how records are handled in the aftermath of presidential administrations. And they talked about none of that. It was a complete joke. But it does speak to what is going to go on tomorrow in Florida in that hearing, because with Donald Trump, what he did that was distinct, and Robert Hur mentioned that, right, was the obstructive element, was trying to conceal it from investigators and trying to get people to not only move boxes, but to erase video surveillance tape. That's why he got indicted. And
it's the most, I think, Misty, you were saying, was it last week, you think this is the biggest threat that Trump faces, right, legally?
Absolutely. And it's not the Presidential Records Act or actually the retaining of the documents. It's not the crime. It's the cover up. It's all of the tampering issues. I do believe that those are going to pose a very, very significant legal risk. And as we just pointed out, that makes this case very distinct from everything we heard in Congress yesterday.
All right, Mr. Marris, Bradley Moss, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.